Hey everyone, welcome to the Ganjha show. Our guest for the day is Matthew Herrold. He wears a lot of hats. One of it is a health expert. He has been in the health field for a long period of time. He loves yoga. That is the only way he's connected to India. And then he sort of went into cannabis and cannabis marketing. One of the most interesting thing about cannabis marketing is that there are a lot of first of all regulations. Secondly, it's an extremely new field. So welcome Matthew to the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much, Vipin. I'm excited to be here and share whatever I can to help you. I'm excited to help. I think India is a beautiful country. People ask me where I want to travel to, and India is one of those places where I personally, on that personal note, would love to explore the spiritual centers of India. Yoga has been very important to me, and I really appreciate India for all the knowledge and the science that India, as a very old culture with I think a beautiful history, has provided to the rest of the world. So all of this makes me feel very good, and I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
It's a pleasure to have you. I mean, just getting connected to the new to so many new people through the podcast. I mean, it has been an exciting journey. Let's talk about yoga for a second, and it's a bit of a different topic, but I mean, it's
Sure.
also an ancient, you could say, physical fitness form, and cannabis also is also an ancient Indian cultural thing. So how first of all you got connected to it? And I've seen, I mean, in Canada and US, there's a lot of cannabis yoga and stuff. So yeah, is that something that you're looking for in future probably?
It's interesting. I hadn't really thought of that. It certainly is part of the culture. I think in North America at large, yoga culture tends to have a very, their arms are open. They're very welcoming of cannabis into their practice. And I think they're perhaps kind of trying to do the same thing, right? For many people, cannabis is a tool like a hammer or a screwdriver to help one along in their journey towards enlightenment, to be more self aware, as well as to find more purpose and meaning in life. Yoga is, for me, has been one of the very successful, I'll say it, educations, right? Ultimately, the books, the texts, and the exercises for the mind and now the body are for the purpose of what I see as looking for truth.
Hmm.
It's ultimately a way to also exercise the brain and the spirit so that they are one with each other, one with the body, and one with the entire universe, we could say, so that we don't see someone across from us as, oh, that's a different person. It's no, this person is very much a part of me. I'm a part of them. And therefore, anything that I do is going to be unto myself, because I am one with everything. What I love about yoga is that it is an education, right? The sutras created by Patanjali are step by step and meant to be followed in sequence, at least to a point. He he points out that one connects to the next one, and I think that's what's really neat about yoga. It, to me, is not the true yoga that I've found in my study and my practice does not try and tell anybody that they are wrong. What yoga simply tries to do is observe the way the universe works and do its best to describe how we can become the best version of ourselves within this universe, within this lifetime, so that we can set ourselves up for the next life, as well as perhaps reaching that level where we go on to a new plane, a new place. And I think all of that is something that's very beautiful. It speaks to my heart and my understanding. And I love that yoga does not try and tell any other religion or spiritual practice or philosophy that it's wrong. I think yoga has been very successful in speaking from a place that it was developed by people who watched, and all they tried to do was not explain why something happens, but instead simply to explain what they see. So therefore, it can't make mistakes because it's focused on what actually happens without trying to go beyond our experience. And that's a beautiful thing to me. I think yoga is a very special tool for all of us. Has a lot to teach us.
Yeah, interestingly, I mean, you mentioned about Patanjali, and Patanjali is an Indian brand recently came up in the FMCG sector, and they were actually trying to legalize medical marijuana for a certain period. So I think that's a great
No kidding.
connection. Yeah, they are into Ayurveda, so it dates back to the traditional Indian medicine. So it's sort of matched up, but yeah, it's sort of a great thing. Um, I mean, we are sort of sidetracking, but again, interesting points.
Yes.
Cannabis is always, not always, but in some sense connected to spirituality, right? People always connect cannabis to not just as a medicine but also a spiritual healer. They get to experience a lot of things. Some people say that they are more loving when they sort of smoke a joint, things like that. You hear Joe Rogan saying, let's talk about, you've worked with a few brands, and you're working with a good chunk of startups in US. How do you figure out a way to market on social media? I mean, I think there's a huge problem in cannabis industry in US where you still have to deal in cash, or has the law been changed now?
The social media is a strong thing. We can't advertise,
Hmm.
really. In Massachusetts, I was able to find local newspapers. We could advertise with them. However, a lot of these large companies, especially publicly traded, if they're on the stock market, they really don't want to touch that because that's under federal law. So now, if they're
Hmm.
working with a cannabis company and they accept advertising money, because we might be in a place as a cannabis company who's serving patients and recreational consumers, the federal government sees this thing. It's so big, and technically we are absolutely breaking a serious federal law in a very large way. Yet by state law, the state says nope, they're fine. And so the federal government is, in the US at the very least, sitting back and kind of watching this and not doing anything about it. That being said, if you're Facebook, you're on the stock market, and you have all sorts of federal agencies looking at your operations from a number of different angles. So
Hmm.
if you start accepting advertising money from a company that, let's just not talk about the state, let's talk about the federal government, it's pretty much the same thing as you accepting drug money to
Hmm.
advertise, say, a cartel,
Got
right?
it.
We sometimes on our borders have trouble with drug cartels in Mexico, and they have
Yep.
operations on both sides. It's a problem. It's true. I'm not going to pretend it doesn't exist. It can be violent too. So from the federal government standpoint, it's the same thing. It's drug money. It's a Schedule One. That's the highest, most serious category for all drugs. It means that it recognizes no medicinal benefit. There's no medical value there. We know that's not true, but that's how
Yep.
the law sits at the federal government. So we can't advertise yet. We can we can make social media campaigns. We can do it all the same ways. In the past, there was something called shadow banning, which
Yep.
was a way that social media companies would take your posts, and they wouldn't suspend your account, they wouldn't delete your account. They would just somehow put it in a category where their software, their computer, and their algorithms would not show your posts even to people who followed you,
Follow
who
you.
want to see your post. Nope, it would just make it as if it was invisible. And people had to figure that out. They would think, gee, nobody likes my posts anymore. I must be doing something wrong. With a closer look, they figure out, gee, it's not me. I'm okay. It's that they changed the system and it's a computer. The computer is not showing my post to anybody. One way I've heard around that is if you change on Instagram, for example, you can have a business account, you can have a personal account. I think a lot of companies are focusing on their company is technically run as a personal account, which means you do
Okay.
not get analytics. However, there's a better chance you're not going to get shadow banned
Yeah.
and you're
I've
not
done
going
the
to
same
get your
thing.
account suspended. Perfect.
Yeah, I've done the same thing. I mean, once you become a business account, then there are different expectations from the algorithm as well. They would probably want you to spend more money in boosting pages, boosting posts, and things like that. So I've sort of kept it a personal account. Yeah, I thought let's try doing that and let's see how they react. And I get huge engagement. I mean, compared to the number of followers I have, it's a lot because it works like a personal account. It works like a person's account rather than a brand's account. Yeah.
Yes. The other thing that we've done I see some companies doing, we always had a warning message, right? 21 and up.
Yep.
So that seems to you never know who on the back end is looking, and as well as it doesn't have to be a representative from any social media company. It could just be someone filing a complaint. And I
Yeah.
think we as any cannabis brand is going to do themselves a favor when they include that messaging that shows that they are an ethical company. They have people's best interests in mind. They're not trying to sell to kids. That's going to, I think, decrease that risk that somebody who doesn't even work for a social media company, they'll send the report. No, we can reduce that by putting in good messaging. Your second question was the banks, and that's been a problem. The one company that I worked with, the owner was out with their niece shopping. Apparently, their credit card company found out that they were the owner of a cannabis company, and without telling them, suspended or canceled one of their big credit cards. It
Oh my
had
God.
nothing, it was not tied to the business. I don't know if maybe they had made some purchases, for the company and reimbursed. Either way, it seemed as simple as they found out this person who had a credit card with them also owned a cannabis company, and they canceled their line of credit without telling them. So they right, this is somebody who has probably never had a credit card canceled on them, and they go to
Yeah.
buy a gift for their niece and they can't because their line of credit's gone. They had a backup. Fortunately, I think they saved the day. However, it was a wake-up call for them. Banking can be hard. There are some banks that just won't work with a cannabis company. So I found in Massachusetts, for example, some cannabis companies end up working with local banks. Local banks seem a little more willing to take that risk, whereas say a Bank of America or a Santander are more hesitant to work with a cannabis company. And again, when you start to hit an international bank, now you're talking about different laws, maybe right, the federal
Yeah.
level of regulation. They're going to look a little more closely at that behavior from their standpoint of bigger banks. So I've noticed that smaller banks, smaller companies are getting those financial services. They're getting those accounts with cannabis companies, and it's because some of the bigger institutions don't want to touch it. And frankly, I see exactly why. It could be in the blink of an eye that their business gets in big trouble. So
Exactly.
that's a unique challenge. We were not able to accept credit card transactions whatsoever for the same reasons. It would put these big credit card companies essentially through the federal eyes. They're moving money for drug companies.
Yeah.
It's illegal.
It's
And so
illegal. Yes.
everything was done with cash and debit cards. And even the debit cards, it was not a debit transaction. It was technically that every single one of our registers was set up like an ATM, So it's like you
Oh,
going to an ATM to take money out of your bank account, you put your PIN number in,
yeah.
and really we are the ATM. So me, if I'm serving a patient or a consumer, I am technically just a machine. You just put in your card, you typed in your PIN number, and oh, I owe you some money, and I'm playing the game that I'm actually like a robot giving you your money from your ATM withdrawal, and then you're giving me cash for something you want to buy. Yet the way it's done is you swipe your card, you do it, I just
And
give you a
that's
little
it.
bit of money back, and I keep the rest of the money. So we didn't play the full game, but it is a game.
Yeah. It sort of looks like a child game when you're trying to figure out loopholes in a stupid system. But yeah, I absolutely get it. I mean, before cannabis was legalized, it was part of a illegal market, and there were mafias, there were cartels trying to do illegal things. And yeah, I mean, people have to be safeguarded legally at some point, but I still think like there could be a middle ground for this, right?
Mhm.
Companies have got an actual license, like that's how you legitimate any business. So I honestly don't think like a lot of illegal companies would try and get into banks and like show that they're earning so much money and get into trouble unnecessarily with IRS and different other agencies. um, yeah, quite interesting. I mean, it's what do you think about the future of branding in cannabis? I mean, like I said, uh, the brands currently try and have um, some or the other aspect of cannabis in their name or in their logo, but that is not the case. Do you think it will go away with time, or it's just happening because then there is a need of a lot of education within the customer?
And ask that last part of that question again. So future branding, and then what were you asking? Would it go away with time? Can you repeat that for me?
Sure, sure. I was just stating that would the names change and become like a different brand than the plant
Mm.
itself, right? I mean,
Right,
Apple,
the canna.
yeah, the canna thing.
Yeah, canna
Uh,
this, canna that.
exactly. Is it because there is a need of a lot of education, or is it something else altogether?
I think it's a couple things, and the future is gonna shift. The canna thing is, it was obvious for an
Hmm.
industry that's never existed. It's an easy way that people know what you are right away.
Hmm.
And so it was like an easy smart move in the beginning, and now I think companies are realizing now people can't remember which canna you are you canna this, are you canna that, are you this canna,
Exactly.
are you that canna, are you canna red, are you canna blue? I don't know, I forget, I just know you're canna something. But I might go to the store now and buy the one that has similar colors and has canna in the name and be like, oh, I don't think this is the same. Oh well, oh, I like this one, maybe I'll try and remember that. And now you've lost a consumer. So I think companies are starting to figure out that maybe that wasn't, it was a good strategy in the beginning because it communicates exactly what you are. They felt clever doing it. And the ones that maybe found the most clever iterations without losing their audience are successful. Yet I think the future branding is going to split, right? The industry is going to split. There's going to be so many different pathways here. There are going to be craft, right? Craft brands more like your craft beer, your craft wine, where we're talking about a vintage and a year of harvest, right? This year was really good, or this harvest, if it's an indoor facility, is a really
Hmm.
good harvest. And here's why. So there's more of a story. It's a craft product, right? It's not the same as getting a piece of art that's made the same way every time. It's no, I'm a craft consumer that wants something that does have that human change in it, right? It's not exactly the same, and some people want that. Those are the brands that are going to have one strategy. And then you're also going to see a split into the medicinal side, where we're going to look at consistency, those brands are going to have a strategy. And even beyond that, we're going to look at products that really start to look more like over the counter drugs in terms of supplements, or the same way someone would go get a vitamin D supplement.
Yeah.
You're going to go get, say, a CBD or a CBG, or maybe a couple, right? Maybe it's a men's formula and a women's formula, just like a daily vitamin.
Yep.
So every single one of those is going to be different. And we haven't touched skincare and beauty products. You're going to have your edibles, right? And you're going to have a separation between brands that are focused on health, right? We are a health and wellness product, or we are strictly a pharmaceutical product. We are strictly a recreational product. Maybe we're a recreational product that focuses on healthy lifestyle. That being said, all of those are going to have very different brands. We're going to see that variation come. And I think with that, we're going to see some of the same practices come into play in the way these brands are built. So the way you build a great, say, wine brand is different than a great beer brand. It requires us looking at who do we think is actually going to buy our product, right? If I don't like wine, period, I do personally, but I also don't drink. That being said, I used to like wine a lot when I drank it. And if I don't like wine, no matter what you do to market to me, I'm going to be like, yes, I love your brand. I love your marketing, but I don't want wine. And
Yeah.
so if they spend all that money to convince me to like them, they could be very successful and I'll still never buy a product from them. So it's going to require these companies really figure out, gee, if I'm an edibles company, I want to create an edible that's healthy and tasty, and it's great for people who, say, want to get ready for their workout, and also a different product that's going to help them relax after their workout
Workout.
and improve. That's a brand that needs to focus on those people. So what do those people like? Do they like being outside? Do they like being inside a gym? Right? How do they exercise? And when they're not exercising, what are they doing? Are we talking about someone who has a young family and wants to be there for their kids? Are we talking about someone who doesn't have a family, is looking for their partner in life, so they want to feel strong and attractive? These are all different things, and a brand needs to focus on those things in order to figure out, next, how do we communicate that our product can help them along the way in their life and finding and building the life that they truly want. That's going to be very different from, say, the grandparent that has chronic pain and just wants to be able to go to the grocery store without needing to hire a nurse or a service to bring them their groceries. So I think all those things are worth considering. In the future, we're going to see brands be more complicated. We're going to see, I like to think of it as multi-dimensional brands. If we think of a brand, we often think, okay, there's a logo, there's a story, right? They have social media accounts, and we're going to show them our employees and all these other things. But we can get, if I'm a brand that offers you relaxation, I don't just have to show you our product and tell you it relaxes you. I can show you, say, a person that is relaxing, and I don't even have to show them using the product. I can just show the scene that someone's going to say, that's what I want. And that could also be, say, for me, it might be just a really small image. Like it could be a leaf with beautiful colors and little water droplets on it, right? Which shows life and health and vitality, and also in a way that might relax somebody. Yet I never showed the cannabis product. I never maybe even showed a person. I just showed this really beautiful thing that makes someone think, ooh, natural, clean, healthy, and relaxed. So I think we're going to see things get a bit more complicated, more creative. I think brands will create those new dimensions in the way they tell their story, and the way that they build this idea in other people's minds, so that they can feel a deeper connection to their brands. And ultimately, that's where I'm excited to go with brands, is as they are ready, and as more and more people join the industry who already know these ideas, branding is going to get very exciting, because it's going to be very complicated, it's going to be very creative, and it's going to become more successful in helping people find products that really speak to them, as well as products that can truly help them.
Yeah, I mean it's exciting to listen to you honestly, talking
Thank
about
you.
things like uh, getting
It's
the
very
product
kind.
out. Yeah, getting the product out there, and how do you get the product. It made me excited about being a part of a marketing team at a cannabis industry. Figuring out ways to so that people can relate to brand. I mean, very simple things like you said. If you have so many similar names and so many similar colors, the customer won't be able to recognize you as a brand. They might just choose some other brand and they might think it's you. It's sort of counterintuitive to what you are trying to do, that is building a loyalty and a successful business. And I honestly think that sometimes probably that's because it's very new industry. I think people are forgetting that it's a business, and there are some basics of business that you need to follow. And I think they're sort of losing that, skipping that whole lesson on business, I think. uh, Great talking to you, Matthew. I mean, you have made me so excited about the product, and I'm definitely so going to look into cannabis marketing, and learned a lot from you, man.
I appreciate it. I really appreciate the opportunity. I would love to talk again. I've loved our conversations, both here and the ones we've had before the show. It's really exciting, and I love learning from you about what's happening over in India. I think it's a great thing, and I tell you what, when I finally get to my trip over to India, I'm
Yeah.
definitely going to be hitting you up so we can have these conversations in person.
Definitely. I mean, I always love the in-person conversations, and so many guests that I've talked to, they want to come to India, and I think India is on the brink of legalizing at least some part of cannabis all
Awesome.
across the country. When I mean very close, I mean 2 to 3 years, but yes, it's there, and there is a great opportunity. I mean, yeah.
Thanks for letting me be involved. I look forward to the next one, and best of luck. Stay safe out there. Stay healthy.
Same, man, same. I have to drop off. I have to rush out home. I'm still in office right now. So thank you so much for coming. We'll chat, definitely chat again. And yeah,
You take care.
bye bye.